Once upon a time, there lived a most high God by the name of Elyon. He had 70 sons, among whom he divided all that he owned, which was the whole world. Elyon gave property to each son to rule. His son Shemesh got Moab, Milcom got Ammon, Asherah, apparently a daughter, got the land of the Zidonians, Yahweh got Israel, etc. But as we know, even if siblings love one another, when it comes to an inheritance, there's going to be some fighting. You know, the love of money and power and all that. And honestly, maybe some gods were better than others, and the gods who tried to steal from their siblings thought they were doing good. They were stealing humans to rule, after all, so if they planned to treat the humans better, then it was better for the humans to be stolen from an evil god. This story is told by the followers of Elyon's evil son, Yahweh. So it's difficult to wade through it all and find the truth, since the ones telling the story always make their God look like the most important God or the one true God. However, Yahweh's property, the humans he owned, as well as Yahweh himself, recognized the other gods and understood that the humans and lands they owned actually belonged to them because they were real gods. And Yahweh's people really liked Asherah, the Queen of Heaven, who was, by the way, also known as Ashtoreth, Astarte, and Ishtar. If they had had a choice, Yahweh's people probably would have served her above Yahweh. They said that when they served her, they had plenty of victuals and were well and saw no evil. Yahweh couldn't compete with her. But one of Elyon's sons, Satan, not his real name, was particularly popular. He was able to steal the land and people of almost all of his siblings. But Yahweh was powerful enough to hang on to his people, albeit by the skin of his teeth, as they really liked worshiping other gods, to Yahweh's constant chagrin and consternation. Actually, the Queen of Heaven, or Asherah, was Elyon's wife. But gods tend to marry their daughters or even their sons, since Yahweh married Israel, and Israel was Yahweh's firstborn son. But she was also his daughter. I guess Israel was an intersex. Or, well, the story gets a little crazy from time to time, and you just have to ignore the obvious lies, contradictions, and inconsistencies, which, believe me, are everywhere. Now, Yahweh, while being happy with his inheritance of Israel for a time, eventually wanted everything his father Elyon had. But so did Satan. And before Yahweh even thought about procuring the whole world, Satan already had most of it. He was good at drawing people to himself. Yahweh and his minions fought Satan and his minions for years and years. And Yahweh could never make any real headway against his brother. Yahweh came up with a plan he thought might help him. He tried to convince everybody that he was Elyon, the Most High God. He even stole his dad's wife for himself, as we know that he and Asherah were eventually together. I guess Yahweh figured he'd also get Asherah's property in that deal. But his theft of his dad's wife would come back to bite him in the butt later. Karma is well, you know. Yahweh put out a lot of propaganda against Satan. He blamed all the evil that he himself did on his brother and tried to turn his brother into a monster. People do the same thing. They demonize those they disagree with on a regular basis, so it's only natural for Yahweh to do the same. It had been easy for Satan to steal property from the other gods because he had more power and he wasn't a bad guy, never threatened punishment or anything. And unlike Yahweh, he didn't give commandments that weren't good, such as having the people burn their own children, as wicked Yahweh did, trying to destroy the people when he was having a hissy fit. Yeah, Yahweh was a real piece of work. I mean, downright despicable. There was nothing he wouldn't do to win a fight, including telling lies. Also, people would know his name and spread it across the earth and make him popular like Satan. And Israel belonged to him by divine right to Yahweh, which meant he had a right to punish her if she went straying after another god. And boy, did he ever. He was constantly sending plagues, the sword, and other disasters upon his own people to try to force them to love him and be obedient to him. See, Yahweh thought he could catch more flies with vinegar than honey. He didn't know about how a soft answer turns away wrath while grievous words stir up anger, or about loving his enemies and doing good to them. He didn't understand that to have a friend, he must be a friend. He didn't know that to be loved, he must show love to others. He was like a general in an army who just barks out orders and expects everyone to obey without question. And he was just so weird with his commands. Every little thing had to be just so. He killed his own people for picking up sticks on a day he liked to think was special because he took a rest that day. And not just that, Yahweh confused his people by contradicting himself. For instance, he inspired a man, King David, to write that Yahweh had given David the necks of his enemies so he could destroy the people who hated him. But then he also told David and everybody else to love their enemies and do good to them. I mean, he didn't do that himself, of course. He took vengeance on his own enemies and slew them. When you think of the God Yahweh, think of someone like Charles Manson. I mean, you can just see the crazy in his eyes, can't you? So anyway, the Israelites were pretty scared to go after other gods. When they did, they kept coming back because Yahweh just about destroyed them if they didn't. Nevertheless, Yahweh lost most of Israel. 10 tribes left, and Yahweh had only 2, Judah and Benjamin, under his control. It was a sad state of affairs for poor, pitiful Yahweh. Yahweh envied his brother Satan and wanted what Satan had. So he came up with another plan he thought might work since the first one, pretending to be his father, had failed. We all know what to do when ratings go down, don't we? Throw a baby into the mix. And that's just what Yahweh did. He figured if he had a sweet little baby, he could draw not just all of Israel, but the whole world to himself. That was his plan, but it didn't quite work out the way he thought it would. Remember how I said that stealing his dad's wife would come back to bite Yahweh in the butt? Well, as I also said, Israel was his wife. And when that little baby Jesus was born, oh my goodness, the world went nuts for him. Many even in Israel began to worship baby Jesus. You know that once a baby comes, nobody pays any attention to the parents anymore. All they see is that precious little baby. There is a name I love to hear. I love to sing its worth. Sounds like music to my ears, the sweetest name on earth. Oh, how I love Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus. Jesus has a name that is above all others, and people sing his praises constantly. Yahweh thought this praise of his son gave him glory, but Jesus quickly overshadowed his dad, taking his wife and becoming everything that Yahweh had been. Jesus is called Lord, Creator, Redeemer, Savior, and Christ. He's wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father. He's the Alpha and Omega. He's the light of the world and the bread of life. In him alone is immortality. All prayers now have to go through Jesus. To be saved, a person has to believe in him. Jesus is King of kings and Lord of lords, the only potentate, or ruler, monarch, or emperor, and the only way to heaven. And the truth is, followers of Jesus rarely say Yahweh's name anymore. They call him God, but they also call Jesus God. The two are conflated just as Yahweh became conflated himself with his own father, Elyon. Like Julius Caesar, Jesus came, he saw, and he conquered. Yahweh's people put another God before him, breaking his first commandment. Yahweh said he wasn't a man nor the son of man, but Jesus was both. So Jesus, a man and son of man, stole godhood from his dad. And let's say it once more, he was human. A human has overtaken a god and become more popular in the hearts of people. Imagine that. And the mom of Jesus as well. Many even pray to the mother of Jesus and think she can grant their wishes. Many still claim to be serving Yahweh, but in reality, they're serving Jesus, making a deity out of a biological man. And they serve his mom, making a deity out of a biological woman. Yahweh said he shares his glory with no one. He said, I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to engraved images. But again, Jesus took Yahweh's glory. He didn't even consider it robbery to be equal with his Father. Statues, engraved images of Jesus as well as his mother are everywhere. Yahweh condemned the use of statues of anything in heaven or on earth. But Jesus' followers ignore that because they really love their Jesus meek and mild. Some people refuse to worship the mother of Jesus because she's human, forgetting that Jesus is fully human himself. But many who follow Jesus, even if they don't worship statues, nevertheless wear crosses around their necks, giving Jesus praise with an engraved image, which again Yahweh condemned. Jesus greatly outshines his dad in the hearts of the people who believe in both of them. And that's specifically because Jesus is human. At least that's how the story goes. The humanity of Jesus makes it possible for him, unlike his dad, to understand us and relate to us. So naturally humans love him more. Also, Jesus did the work. Perhaps therefore he didn't actually steal, but he bought people. He gave his life for them. They belong to him, are his bride, not Yahweh's. Jesus reigns supreme in the hearts of men and women who think they're still serving Yahweh when in reality they're serving a human being. What they've done is turn the words of Yahweh into a lie, and they worship and serve the creature, Jesus, more than the Creator. See, again, and I can't emphasize this enough, Jesus, the creature, was human, born of a woman. According to the physical body, Jesus was made of the seed of a man. That's in Romans 1:3. His lineage, through his earthly father Joseph, was from King David, who was also called the son of Yahweh. Jesus was no more God than anybody else is. In other words, his brain, which determined what he did and how he acted, was completely human. What's the difference in making a body out of a sperm and egg and making a body out of some dirt, as Yahweh did with Adam? And lest anybody say, yeah, but Jesus' spirit was from Yahweh. Well, wasn't Adam's too? And aren't yours and mine? Not only did Elohim / Yahweh / Jesus knit our bodies together in the womb, but they also gave us our spirits. And what are our spirits made of? The gods, of course. What else could anything be made of except the gods, since they're the only eternal thing there is? Everything else is made from them. That's all there is them. It's all there was to make anything of. And surely consciousness, if anything at all, is of the gods. Poor Yahweh. Everything he does fails. But Satan is happy. He is now the ruler of the world. Even baby Jesus, beloved as he is, and with all the lies and persecutions he puts out against his uncle Satan and his followers, can't conquer Satan. Satan reigns supreme in the hearts of men and women everywhere. Honestly, even followers of Jesus are constantly being found serving Satan. Besides, notice again, those who serve Jesus aren't serving Yahweh or even Elyon, because they've given Yahweh's glory to his human son and Elyon's glory to his human grandson. Listen, y'all, we won. Yes, we humans overtook the gods with one of our own. Yahweh said that if the people could build the Tower of Babel to reach heaven, which he came down to see, since he's not everywhere, all at once, because he couldn't see it from where he was, way out there. Maybe he developed cataracts in his old age. Anyway, if they could do that, then nothing would be restrained from us. And while he wasn't looking, I guess it happened. Remember I told you that Satan wasn't this other god's real name? Well, a Satan is simply an adversary. Anybody can be a Satan. Even Yahweh's called Satan at one point, because the story says that Satan tempted David to number the people, but then it turned out to be Yahweh who tempted him. So if you think about it, all of us atheists, agnostics, and Christians are against Yahweh and Elyon. Maybe some still worship the gods Elyon gave them to, but I'm not sure who that would be. So the whole world of people may be Satan's to Yahweh and Elyon, and we are the God of the world. Fancy that. We humans control everything that is controllable on the earth. Who'd have thunk? Anyway, what an interesting story, huh? I mean, gods bequeathing their property to their children because, well, I guess the older gods are dying. And the children of the gods having wars among themselves. Gods visiting earth and having babies with humans. Witches, ghosts, sorcerers, evil and familiar spirits, devils, magicians. How exciting it all is. But remember what I said in the beginning? I said, once upon a time. Thank you all. Bye.